is here now. The power of now is here now. The power of you, me, is here to create magic on earth.
Welcome back to the Mastering You podcast with Natalie Newhart. Thank you so much for being here. Now let's get to work. All right, guys, welcome back to the podcast. So, today we're going to be talking about the topic of resting, and more importantly, or more specifically, I should say, why is it so damn hard for us to rest? It's everyone. And the more that you are in this work of doing this inner work, this self mastery work, self love work, self worth work, the more you're going to start to feel more comfortable with giving yourself the ability to rest and resting, actually following through with it when your body needs it. But if you haven't done this work, then you're most likely going to find yourself in a situation where you find yourself in this situation where your body is just tired, right? Your body's tired, your body's tight, it's achy, it's sore, your energy is just like drained, it's at an all-time low, and you just have this desire to just take a break. You have this desire of like just the sound of sitting in the sunshine and feeling the breeze on your face, or just laying down, or just sitting and doing nothing, maybe with a cup of coffee in your hand or something like that. Like there's like it sounds so nice, right? You just know deep in your heart that that's what your mind and body needs and what your heart wants. But you ignore that inner voice. You ignore that yearning. You ignore that desire, and you push yourself through the day anyway. You just kind of sweep that aside and you go looking at your to-do list and just like, oh, I don't have time for that, right? I've got too many things to do. I've got to get these things done, right? So instead, you find yourself, instead of following your heart, you follow your mind, right? And your mind is the thing that's saying, your heart is the one that's saying, oh, like, take care of yourself. It's time to rest. We need rest. We need to rejuvenate. And your mind is the one that's saying, you can't sit there. You can't just sit there. You have too many things you got to do, right? Um, and what happens is we ignore the one thing in this world that is undoubtedly the most supportive to our mental and physical health and happiness, in order to do something that is really feeding our ego, in order to do something that gives us a moment of feeling accomplished, a moment of feeling important, a moment of feeling valued, a moment of feeling loved, a moment of feeling needed, right? And because it's a moment, it just tends to happen over and over and over, right? And every time this happens, we're essentially saying no to the body and the life we want, right? We're saying no to a life that's filled with peace, love, and vitality. And we're unknowingly saying yes to a life that we don't want, to a body and a life that we don't want. One that's filled with anxiety and overwhelm and is struggling and hurts, and yeah, that we're not happy with, right? And obviously we're not aware when we're doing that in the moment, right? When we're choosing the life we don't want and the body we don't want over the body and life that we do want, right? And so we have to this is why it is so important for us to slow down enough in our life so that we can see it when it happens, right? So that we can actually study ourselves and look back and ask ourselves, why am I doing this? Or looking back and asking, why did I do that? Right? Continuously say no to my own health and happiness, to the thing that I know for a fact that is going to enrich my life in all the ways And I'm saying yes to the thing that's keeping me stuck in this hole, saying yes to the things that are keeping me stuck in anxiety and overwhelm and exhaustion and burnout. We have to really, it takes time to understand ourselves. It takes time to study ourselves, just like if you're studying for a test or something. You have to put the time in to understand that material. And we are no different. And, and so it's so important that we learn how to slow down. And funny because the hardest thing for us to do is slow down. It's like the simplest thing, but it's the hardest thing for us to do. And because it's the hardest thing for us to do, we find ourselves continuing to repeat of go, 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 do, right? Like just constant chasing, constant running, constant accomplishing, checking things off, and never taking a moment to sit back and really study and observe and question whether we are making decisions that are taking us in the direction that we want to go or not. And more importantly, what's driving that? So, yeah. And so it's like that it's so difficult for us to rest because we're caught in this loop, right? And we've become so disconnected to ourselves. Um, and yeah, it like number one is just our lack of ability to slow down, right? Because we don't need to slow down. We can't see how we are creating our problems, our struggles, our challenges. We cannot see our lack of self-worth, our lack of self-love, right? And if you cannot see it, you cannot change it. But if you don't slow down, you cannot see it. It's like it's such a trap. It is such a trap. And so we have to really ask ourselves, okay, well, if what I need to do is slow down in order for me to live a more fulfilling life, in all areas, right? Like even like my career, my body, my health, my relationships, my life, like a more peaceful, more enjoyable life. Um, if those are the things that we want, we need to take time to slow down and really so that we can create the skills to make sure that every action we take is in alignment with what we want. And one of those skills is being able to slow down. And the thing that's causing us to not feel like we can slow down is typically related to some form of lack of self-worth, right? And or fear. And so we've become so disconnected. We've become so disconnected from our own self-worth, and we've been so disconnected from trusting ourselves. That is because we've been brought up in a world, and this is all obviously, guys, everything that I say on this podcast, it's like just my personal experience, right? I'm never going to talk about something that I haven't personally experienced. So we've been brought up in a world that is constantly saying that we're not enough, and that is also constantly telling us how to do things, right? Oh, you should eat like this, you should work out like this, you should get this job, you should be this way, like you should do it this way, instead, you got to follow this plan. And so instead of like thinking that instead of trusting what's best for you, right? Okay, so there's two things that are creating this inability for us to create the life we want. And or it's really, the two things that are causing us from slowing down so that we can create the body and life we want. And that is lack of self-worth and fear. like not being able to trust ourselves. And if you look back at your life, you can pattern. You start to notice this actually everywhere, right? So I like when I walk around town, or yeah, just when I'm in the world, I kind of like see these patterns everywhere. Um, it all starts with our parents, our parents so hard and never resting, right? Always searching for this external achievement, external validation, um, never feeling enough, never feeling deserving to rest. So of course, they taught not, and I'm not saying all parents, right? I'm just saying I know my parents and a lot of people's parents, just from my experience of coaching people. Um, because some parents actually, they did grow up with a lot of self-worth and self-love. And so those people, they tend to look at the act very differently. They're not going to struggle with like slowing down and taking care of themselves because they weren't brought up in that in that way. So yeah, never feeling deserving to rest. It's typically like, from our parents, that would be handed down to us. They would teach us to do the same, right? They would like, for most of us, our parents taught us to work hard, don't be lazy, work 9 to 5. Only after, a hard day's worth of work, then you can rest. Like I know for me, it was that way, right? Like it was just like, don't be caught sitting down, laying down, unless like all the chores were done. And on the week, like especially on the weekends, right? It's like, okay, during the week was going to school and like doing homework and stuff. It was like tit for tat, right? Like you got to do this in order to get that. You need to work in order for you to rest. And both my parents were very much this way. Um, and it's like that feeling of like, let's say you're like laying down on the couch on a weekend and like you hear like you hear mom and dad come home, or even now, probably you're like your wife or your husband come home and it's like you hop off the bed or you hop off the couch because you don't want them to see you like resting. It's that, it's that feeling of like it's not okay to rest, right? And that's just something that has been ingrained in us, right? It's been in us. It's been taught to us from our society. And it goes way, way back, right? It goes back to our parents, their parents, like, so these are just generations of lack of self-worth and lack of self-love and of fear that we are having to unwind right now. And I mean, like all the time, but I feel like there's a big shift happening right now in the world where people are becoming more aware. If you really look, you can see it out. You can see it, right? Like you can just see that people are just starting to take better care of themselves. They're starting to question, well, why am I working so hard if I'm miserable? People are doing a lot more holistic stuff, breathwork stuff. So I do think there's a shift happening. I think that people are awakening and starting to, yeah, just kind of question this stuff more and more, which is great. But these are things that we're unwinding from, many, many generations. And again, like society has painted this image of it's painted this image of who we, of what success looks like, of who we should be, what a successful life looks like, um, like you should live your life like this. This is the way to live your life. This is how you're going to be happy and fulfilled. And this is like, a sign that you've done enough. Like you've accomplished, you've made you've, what do I say? Like, sorry, I'm hitting a blank. Like you've made your life meaningful, like this, this idea of success, right? And it's things that are like, oh, you should be pretty, you should be skinny, you should have good grades, and once you graduate high school, like you need to then go to college, you need to get a degree, and once you get one degree, well, one degree is not enough, so you need to get 2 degrees. Okay, and then once you get your 2 degrees, then you need to get a nice car, you need to get a nice house, you need to get a good job, you need to get a family, and you need to have, lots of money. Maybe now, maybe one house isn't enough, right? Now you need two houses, right? And you know and 2 houses maybe isn't enough. You need 3 houses, or one car isn't enough. You need 2 cars. You know, you need another kid. You need more money. You know, you need to be stronger. You're not strong enough. You need to be stronger. You need to be faster because you're not fast enough. You know, oh yeah, you won this one competition, but you know what? You should really win another one, right? To make sure that you like that was really legit, right? You know what? Let's may as well do it 3 times just to show, to prove to people like this. You know, you're the shit. You know, it's like it's so funny. Like it's just it's like you're never enough, right? That's the pattern. You're never enough. It's never enough, right? And that's the only thing that's missing from that image of society, of this constant chase. The one thing that's missing from this image is enough. Some guy can have, or some woman, whatever, can have everything. This family can have everything, right? The perfect looking family, the money, the cars, the prettiness. There's one thing they don't have, typically. It's enough, right? It's an endless black hole of always needing more, right? Always needing more. And what's interesting is that when you're always needing more things, more, you end up creating more stress for yourself, right? You end up creating more responsibilities. You know, if you got all these cars, these houses, and these kids, um, yeah, just things to take care of, you know, like, I don't know, whatever toys you have, all the clothes you have, you need more closet space. Like you need now you need things to take care of these things, right? You need, like, there's more responsibilities. I need to make the mortgage payments, the car payments. You know, I've got all these responsibilities, and that starts to trap us. Like, shit, now I really have to work this much, make this amount of money because I have all this shit to pay for, you know, and I have all these things you know, I got to do. And it just becomes overwhelming. It becomes exhausting. You know, I need to look pretty. So I got to go and this was me. Like, I got to go get my lashes. I got to go tan. I got to go to the gym, and you know, I need to have these nice clothes, right? So I've got to make all this money to pay for all that stuff. And I also need the time to do that. So it's like, you know, to fit all that stuff in, all that stuff takes time. Have you ever been to a lash appointment? Oh my God, it's like freaking 2 hours, guys. At least my lash. I mean, they did a great job, but it was so long. You got to get your hair done. You got to get your nails done. Like oh my God, like there's so many things you got to do to upkeep this, right? And I'm not saying it's wrong. Like, it's not wrong. I'm just saying that, you know, we take on, like, it's not just like it takes a lot of time and energy to put into these things, to upkeep these things, um, that you could be putting in time to take care of your well-being, you know, to really take care of your body, to take care of your mind and your emotions. So I'm not saying that we can't have these things or that we shouldn't have these things. Okay. Um, we absolutely should allow ourselves to have them, you know, because they can definitely amplify our experience of life. Like when I had lashes, dude, like I I I really, like, I liked it, you know, it was pretty. Yeah, I didn't have to, like, I don't have lashes anymore, because I don't know, I've accepted myself the way I am naturally, and I just kind of like, I don't know, I really like realness. I really like authenticness and naturalness. It's just me you know, kind of stepping more into just loving my natural self. Like, there's just so much to love, right? And I don't really want to feel like I need to cover it up. But I really liked having lashes. They were so pretty. um yeah, because I don't put makeup on, so it's like just having those was really cool. But like I said, it took a lot of time and a lot of money as well. And so it's okay to have it, right? Because it can amplify your experience. Like, I liked it. But it's when we're doing these things at the sacrifice of our own person where things go wrong, right? Because now I have to pay for it, and I have all this time that I need to put into it in order to upkeep this, you know. And so And those are the things that maybe I wouldn't need to work as much if I didn't have to upkeep with hair and nails and lashes and whatever other people do, like the thing with the needle with the Botox stuff, right? Like I don't know, there's like all sorts of stuff that people are doing, like that all takes a lot of time, and it's like, well, and money. So it's like I could do all those things, or I could work less and not have to pay for those things and have more time to just like enjoy life. Um, but yeah, so it's like just asking ourselves, like, why, why am I doing this? And it's, like I said, it's okay if you really truly want it, if that's like what you want. It's just, what are you sacrificing? What cost is it coming? And are you okay with that? Like, does that align with what you want? Like, everyone's going to have a different life that's important to them. Quick interruption. Hey guys, Natalie Newhart here. If you resonate with my message and would like to learn more about how to master your behaviors, create peak vitality in your body, and live a more effortless life, then click the link in the show notes to set up a 30-minute coaching call with me. On our call, we'll take an assessment of what's standing in your way from becoming your best self and the steps to overcome them. Okay, back to the show. So, and it just goes back to the question of like, why is it so hard for us to rest? When we really need it, when we really want it. And it comes down to those two answers of like lack of self-worth, right? Like because I always feel like I need to be doing things. I need to be checking things off. I need to be helping people in order to feel enough. I need to look a certain way to feel enough. I need to be seen. I need to feel needed, right? So I'm like doing all these things for others. Maybe I feel like I need to, put all this time into, um, working out, something like that, and and like, again, there's nothing wrong with that, right? Like I love working out and it's incredibly important to me. But it's being aware of when it's coming from a place of fear. Like I'm not enough unless I do this, because that's when it becomes the driver. That's where we don't allow ourselves to rest because we're like afraid that if I don't get my workout in, then I'm not going to have a good, or if I don't get my workout in, I'm going to gain a bunch of weight or something like that. Right. But there's like a feeling of, I need to do this to feel enough. And, maybe like the more things that I check off in my day, the more worthy I am, the more uh, accomplished I am. Right. And there's a feeling of being important. I'm needed. I'm loved when we take care of others. Right. And and like being the one that handles all the daily living tasks, so it's being aware of what is driving you, because if these things are driving you like for validation reasons, because you don't feel enough, you'll always find yourself continuing to needing to do those things in order to feel enough. And this can be, oftentimes these things are unconscious, right? It's not something that we understand, like we know that we're doing them, right? So it can be an unconscious lack of self-worth or a conscious lack of self-worth. And the only difference is that you're aware that you don't feel enough and you actively take action to do those things to feel enough because it fills you up. That would be conscious, right? Or unconscious is that you don't realize that you don't feel enough and you're doing these things, right? But at the end of the day, either way, what happens is you find yourself just completely drained, because you're constantly chasing, you're constantly ticking things off the list, trying to accomplish everything. But as a result, you've completely ignored yourself. You've completely ignored your self-care, your feelings, what you need, what you want, because you're so busy trying to get this external love and validation from the outside. Yeah, and so you find yourself just pushing through, right? You find yourself pushing through when you really need rest. And what happens is, like what we do is we tend to just go to like, oh, I'm just going to drink more caffeine, or I'm going to eat more food, or I'm going to take a pill, right? Whatever, to in order, or I'm just going to go on vacation in like a month or something like that, in an attempt to bypass the call for rest. Okay. And, like I've said many times, like this fix, like this short-term fix, it works for a short time. It works for a period of time, but eventually it just catches up to us. Eventually the body gets to a point of dis-ease, a not feeling at ease. There's constant tension, constant tightness in the body, constantly like kind of just feeling drained. And like I've said in the past, it leads to all sorts of issues, right? All sorts of mental issues, physical issues in the body. And what we're told is to just take a pill, just take an anxiety pill, take a diet pill, just go to therapy, just meditate, just sleep, just go on vacation, just do a different diet, right? Just do a different workout plan. And I think that a lot of us have to go and try all of those things in order for us to realize, nope, that doesn't work. Like that's not, nope, I'm still stuck. I'm still in the shit show. I'm still creating the same patterns, right? I'm still feeling like shit. My body's gaining weight, or, my, I'm, I'm getting all, my body's breaking down. I have all these digestion issues, whatever it is, right? And that's because we haven't gone to the root of the issue, which is that lack of self-worth and the fear that's driving, right? So fear, we'll move to that topic. So this is the other root cause of our inability to take care of ourselves, our inability to rest when we really need it, because there could be some fear that's driving there. Like it can be a fear of gaining weight, a fear of judgment. Like if, like I was sharing earlier, like being seen as lazy, right? Like that's why we like jump off the couch, right? When the partner comes home or the parents come home, it's like, we don't want to be seen as lazy, right? So there's like a fear of judgment, maybe a fear of rejection, like fear of people not liking you if you don't do this thing for them, or a fear of like people leaving you if you, I don't know, aren't like fulfilling these expectations that they have, or fear of like rejection, like from a job or something like that, which then brings me to like fear of survival, right? So not making enough money, right? So it's like fear of losing your, fear of survival, like not making enough money to live. But it's like, it's asking the question, it's like, well, do I really need to make that amount of money, or do I really need that job? Like, do I really need this big house? Do I really need all this stuff, like these cars and these toys and all these things that are, a lot of that we have to pay for, and I'm, like I said, it's okay to have it, but it, like, at what cost? Is it worth it? Because you can absolutely have it and not have it cost your, you can have like the big house and the cars and not have it cost your mental and physical well-being, if you set your life up in a way where that is important to you, right? Like there's people out there that are, you know like for me, for example, like I mean, I don't own our house, but like I have enough things, but what's really important to me is my schedule, like my free schedule, right? Because what's important to me is my happiness, my health. And so I've built my life up in a way, I've set it up in a way where I'm not running around and I'm not like overwhelmed. I don't have that's like full anymore. I used to, very much used to live in that for most of my life, but today I don't, so you can create that schedule for, but again, that self-worth and self-love has to be there, and that self-belief, right? um but so as long as those two areas, as long as we're living in those two areas of lack of self-worth and in fear of like not trusting in life, um and not trusting in ourselves, not believing in ourselves, then nothing will change the feeling that is, nothing will change that feeling that is drive to always be doing and never being able to rest. So this is why it's so hard for of us to just sit down for 5 minutes, or longer. I know when I first started this work, I was like, I constantly lived in like anxiety and overwhelm. I mean, my day was planned out in 15-minute increments, guys. Like I had this thing for like, well, I still love checking things off, but like things had to like go a certain way. It was very much controlled, you know? Um, and yeah, it was just, it was exhausting. And you couldn't get me to sit down and meditate for 5 minutes. Like it was like 1 minute was like, okay, are we almost there yet? Like it was like pulling teeth to get me to sit there for um, a minute. And then, eventually I just built up on that. Then it became 2 minutes and then it became three, five, and then 10, so I slowly had to work my way up to it. So I just want to, I'm just sharing that because it's not easy for anybody. It really isn't. I mean, unless it's something that you were like brought up with. So we have to ask ourselves why. Like, why isn't it easy for me? What is driving me to be so busy all the time? What is driving me to have such a full schedule? What is driving me to feel like I need to accomplish all these things? What is driving me to feel like I need to work out this way every single day? What is driving me to need all these things, right? To need the houses and the cars. Like it's just being aware. You don't have to like, I'm not saying that that you got to give it all up. It's just being aware, right? Just understanding. What you do with that is up to you, but it's just like giving yourself, taking a step back, asking like, what is this giving me? Is it what I want? Um so asking that question of like, what is driving me, right? And like, what, why am I doing the things I'm doing? And the second question is, well, what am I afraid of? If that's driving us is fear, of fear of, like I said, of judgment, fear of rejection, fear of survival, then what is it that I'm afraid of? Being aware of what is it that you're afraid of, because you really got to face it. You got to understand what you're afraid of, what is driving to live that way that is keeping you from the way you actually want to live, right? And likely the way you want to. Okay. And it's asking yourself that question. And then, it would be good to, and so maybe like the answer is like, oh, I'm afraid I'm going to lose my job, or, oh, I'm afraid I'm going to gain a bunch of weight. Oh, I'm afraid of my partner leaving me. I'm afraid of losing this friend. I'm afraid of, being alone or something like that, whatever the answer is. And then it would be good to ask yourself, well, like, well, what's so bad about that? Right? What what would be the worst situation? And this can help so that you can see that it's not so bad. And so you can see how you also maybe don't trust yourself or believe in yourself. Right. So it's like, so it's like, oh, like if I'm afraid of losing my job, it's like, okay, well, what would be the worst? Okay, let's say I lose my job. Okay, well then, well, let's just say I lost my job for a while. Well, I could really like the worst possible outcome, right? Is maybe I give up my cars, I give up my house. Let's say I become homeless, right? And I think like just the word homeless already just kind of puts like a negative spin on it. But actually there's a lot of homeless people that actually are choosing to live that way. And honestly, guys, I've lived, I mean, I've lived that by choice, right? Of just like wanting to live out on the land, like just camp. Um, and yeah, a lot of those guys are living by choice, because they just want freedom. Like they just kind of just want to live. Like they don't really care to have all these things. And so I'm just saying like, okay, well, you know, that could be something that happens, but it could, you could choose that, right? And that's okay when it's your choice. It's not so bad, right? And but I think the thing is that's really scary about that is it will show you where you don't trust yourself. I think most people are afraid of like losing their job or, like I don't know, like go, living out in nature because it'll show you where you don't trust yourself, where you don't trust yourself to get back on your own 2 feet, to create what you want. So it's like, oh, well, I'm so afraid of losing my job because I don't trust myself to get another job, right? I'm so afraid of losing my body because I don't trust myself that I can recreate that body, right? And then it's like asking yourself, well, why don't you trust yourself? Why don't you believe in yourself? because it's this lack of belief and lack in trust in yourself that's going to, that will disempower you, that will create the thing that you don't actually want. And it's so funny. So it's like, so really the root of it is like a lack of belief and trust in yourself. So you're holding on to this job or this body for fear because you're so afraid that you can't do it again, So, and that's very disempowering because it's like you cling to this, right? You're so afraid to let it go. So it's like, well, what if we built this trust in you? What if you rebuilt your trust in yourself and your belief in yourself so that you feel like you can do whatever the fuck you want, right? That you are so empowered, so um just capable of doing whatever you want, that it doesn't, like, so what if I lost my house, or I, gave it up? So what if I, like, gain 20 pounds? Like, I know I can get back to it because it's who I am, because I believe in myself, because I trust myself to get on my own 2 feet. I know that that can happen, right? It's not a big deal. So, but we got to ask ourselves, like, well, where does that lack of trust come from, right? Well, why don't you trust yourself? Why don't you believe in yourself? Where did that come from? Who or what away from yourself to that has taught you to not believe in yourself? And it's really getting down to these fine things so that you start to understand yourself. Because I know for me, guys, like, my mom was constantly telling me to how to do things, right? Oh, you should go to this college, or you should write like this, you should dress like this, you need to get this job, this is what you should do. Like, she was you should be like her, you should be like your cousins. Like, she was constantly telling me that. Why? Because that's the way she thought for herself, right? She constantly was telling herself that she needed to be like others. Um, and so this trust in myself wasn't really there. Like, she didn't do it on purpose. It was obviously unconscious. But it's like, it really impeded my ability to trust myself and make decisions for myself. Like, oh, you know what? I believe that this is what I need to do. This is the job I want, and this is what I'm going to do. And, this is what I want to do for school, or I don't want to go to school, so it's like, instead it was like placing my power, my belief, my trust into something else, right? Into my parents. So you have to ask yourself, and also, like, not only like a whole entire life of like people telling us how to live, right? Oh, you should do this diet plan, you should eat like this, you should live like this, like, this is the way to, this is the kind of morning routine you should have, this kind of night routine you should have. Like, everybody's telling us how we should be living, what we should be doing, how we should be doing it, instead of people telling us, what's best for you, you figure it out, you have the answers. Instead, we're looking for these answers in outside people, outside things. And as a result, part of that, the result of that is developing a lack of trust with ourselves. I mean, like, for example, diets are a big example. Like, you should eat like this. This is the way you need to eat, and this is the way you need to work out. And as soon as we place that trust and power into these diet plans, then what happens is we don't listen to our feelings. And then what happens is we go out of control, right? Because we deprived ourselves trying to follow this stupid plan, or we overwork ourselves in the gym trying to follow this plan, and we burn out and we overeat, right? And we develop this, like, and then because we overeat, we're like, oh, I can't trust myself. So we damage our trust with ourselves every single time. And because we don't have, we say we can't trust ourselves, we go back to the plan. We go back to somebody teaching us how, like, the way we should be doing it, because we don't have any trust. So it's like, we've just totally damaged our trust with ourselves. And so we have to really understand, like, why that happens. Why don't I trust myself? Why don't I believe in myself? And, oftentimes it's all these experiences of putting our trust in something else or someone else that has created some type of um, a bad experience where it confirms that we can't trust ourselves. Okay. So we have to learn how to rebuild this, how to reinstate this trust within ourselves. So it's, asking yourself, like, can I take this back? Can you reinstate and rebuild this trust within yourself by starting to trust yourself more and more every single day, by starting to trust your feelings, your intuition, what do you feel is the answer? And can you trust that? And yeah, we're going to fuck it up sometimes, and that's okay. But you're going to slowly start to build trust within yourself. The more you start to listen to yourself instead of listening to other people. And as a result, there will be little fear left, right? So it's like, oh, like you won't be afraid that you gained weight or that you lost your job or that people left you or something, because you believe yourself, you trust yourself, you've developed a level of self-love for yourself. So that's what it really comes down to, guys. Like, so that just kind of making it full circle, we started off by asking, like, why is it so difficult for me to rest? Why can we be so, why is it so hard to get ourselves to rest when we really know, like, that's like what we really need? And like I said, two things it comes down to is that lack of self-worth and a fear, fear of judgment, rejection, survival, whatever. And these things will keep us in that constant loop if we don't learn to slow down and look at these things. We will never change the feeling, and the pattern will continue to repeat itself, and you'll continue to feel more and more exhausted, more drained, more burnout, just and always feeling like you're like just trying to survive with like your head above the water. And it doesn't have to be that way, right? There's a way you can really enjoy life. And to me, I feel like, from my experience, I feel like, I've had it all. I've had the fame, I've had the body, I've had the money. And none of it is worth it if you don't feel good. So for me, and so I've just changed my life around to make feeling good the most important part of my life. And that means mentally, physically, emotionally. So if you're on the same page as me, if you can relate, if you're just like, yeah, you know what? And I don't mean you can't have anything. I'm just saying, like, hey, if you're tired of feeling tired, you want to live a more fulfilling life, you want to feel better in your body, if you want to feel better mentally, emotionally, then this is the work that we need to do, right? And this is why I created the self-mastery program. So the first phase is self-worth, second phase is self-love, developing that self-love, third phase is self-mastery. And that third phase is optional. So so if this is something that you're wanting to really to turn your own, to live a better life, a better quality of life, feel free to reach out to me. You can click the link in the show notes below and schedule a free consultation call with me, where we'll just chat. We'll just get inside and connect, and we'll just get curious, like, what it is you're struggling with, and just kind of highlight some things that are standing in your way. And we can also, obviously we'll feel each other out, because I don't just work with anyone. I want to make sure that this is deep work, this is serious work, and I want to make sure that the people I put my energy into really are willing to accept it and trust it and use it. So so if this is something you're interested in, just click the link below and schedule a free call with me. And yeah, I love hearing your comments. If you guys can, like, it's awesome if you can put a review on the whatever podcast platform you use. I'd really appreciate it. But do what you feel. So much love to you all. We'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Mastering You podcast with me, Natalie Newhart. I hope you're feeling more empowered and inspired on how to master your mind, your body, and your life. If you don't want to miss your next training with me, be sure to subscribe to the show wherever you consume your podcasts. And definitely connect with me on Instagram. I'm natalie.newhart on Instagram. Much love to you all. Until next time.
The power of love is here now. The power of now is here now. The power of you, me, is here to create magic on us.